G'day, the Green Velvet Dragon again. Probably not as nervous in this second video as I was in the first. Going to talk about how on earth do you pay for your weight loss surgery in Australia, because it can be interesting with the public healthcare system, and not everybody's got private health cover. So basically there's two ways to do it. If you don't have private health cover, you do need to go through the public system for weight loss, any type of weight loss surgery. And the most common one, as I said in the previous video, is going to be gastric banding or lap banding. And from the various sources and the people that I've spoken to, it's going to run somewhere between $10,000 and $13,000. And that's if you don't get yourself on the public wait list, if you go ahead and pay for it yourself. And that's going to include hospital fees and stuff in a public hospital. If you go in a private hospital, it's going to be more, because you're going to end up paying the entire fee. And it's not uncommon that I've heard people are spending like $15,000, $20,000 to do it. So you need to weigh up your options carefully. If you've got private cover, it's going to be cheaper, but I'm telling you, not by much, especially if you live in the remote area like I do, and you have to go, like I'm going to have to go to Brisbane, 2,000 kilometers away. I live up in the far north. The closest regional place to me is Cairns, and gastric bypass is not done here. There isn't a surgeon here that does it all the time, or at all actually, and the closest one really is Brisbane. So there are added expenses to that, travel and accommodation and meals and all that. So where do you start? You can use you apply to use your superannuation to pay for your weight loss surgery. It's called APRA, and there's a website, www.apra.gov.au. It stands for Australian, Australian Prudential something. Australian Prudential something, sorry, spaced out. Anyway, APRA, that's what they go by. And they're the people, the government body, federal government body, who oversee our superannuation. And it doesn't matter if you've got, who you've got for superannuation, Q Super, Health Super, whatever. At the end of the day, you can't access it until you go through this mob first. And this is the challenging part. This is the application that I did, the entire thing. Okay, that's what I sent them the first time. It took me 2.5 weeks to put this together, and I ended up scanning it all in and emailing, because at least I know they get it. They did. The whole file was like 16 megabytes, and I had to, after exploding my home network, I split it up in 4 emails, and I think the average size of each email was about 4 to 6 megabytes. But it did eventually go, and they did get it. I scanned them all in as PDF files, including the application itself, which is this, and it's like 10 pages long, and you have to get a lot of documentation to go together with it. The primary thing that you need to get are 2 medical reports, one from your general practitioner, or a specialist, you're like an endocrinologist or somebody, but you also need to get your surgeon to fill out a report as well. And then you have to prove and provide every detail about every amount of money that you want to spend, down to the last cent, quite actually. There's a part for medical treatment, and there's also a part for transport as well. In my particular case, and I think a lot of people who live in the north, in the far north, transport is going to be a huge part of it. The surgeon's fees alone, Medicare covers a part of it, and I'm lucky enough to do a private cover, but really the private cover is only kicking in for a small bit. I think that the most valuable thing the private cover is doing is actually paying the hospital fee, the daily fee for the room, and the theater fees. And that's probably the cheapest thing, actually. I'm only paying is my excess. And I have a excess, $250, Some people have 0, some people have 500, whatever, payer access. The most expensive thing is actually the surgeon. There's a gap. He's a fantastic surgeon, and I wouldn't have considered going anywhere else. But the gap is somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000. The anesthesiologist is the next biggest gap, and I think that's where, no matter what surgery you have, you always have that one. And I think the gap for that one's going to run about a $2,000 gap, maybe $1,500. And the rest of it's all negligible if I didn't have to travel so far. But since it is quite a ways away, and the surgeon, I need to stay down there for at least a couple, 3 weeks. And that's if everything goes fantastically well. So, and most people, if they're in the remote, whether they're in Queensland or Western Australia or the Northern Territory, are going to have to travel a fair ways unless they live in a capital city, and a capital city that does it. So there's accommodation, meals, transport while I'm down there. Someone's going to have to go with me, and so you're paying for two, basically. So do your APRA application, especially if you live in a capital city. It's the best way to get this paid for. What I do recommend is that if you don't have private health cover and you do want to get this, and you don't, even if whether it's gastric bypass or lap banding, and you don't want to sit on a public wait list, because I'm reasonably certain that a wait list for gastric bypass, if there is even one, and I haven't been able to actually verify that, and I have tried, the wait list would be years. There are people that I know and have seen on forums and things around that have actually waited for 8 years on a wait list for lap banding, and that's entirely through the public health system. My suggestion is look around, do some shopping around for really basic private cover, wait your 12 months, and go and do it with private cover. At least you will have your theater fees paid and a huge chunk of that done, especially if there's any complications and you have to go back into hospital. You want to make sure that you're covered. And the other thing is do a bit of shopping around for the right doctor, especially if you're in a capital city, you have the option of doing that. But if you're in a regional area, don't just take anyone. Do some shopping around and get the right thing. You're going to be spending a lot of money for other things, so make sure you get the right one and really explore your options. Don't be forced into a particular procedure just because of the funding aspect of it. So I'm going to wrap this one up because we're coming up on a little over 8 minutes. So I'm going to do a part 2 and get into a little bit more nitty-gritty about some more stuff.